Lesson 4C. Exercise 4. Speaker 1.
I decided to try the big sleep out for the first time this year. My neighbour did it and had the time of her life, but I didn't. Not because it was too cold, but because some people next to me were making so much noise. I nearly had a word with the organisers, but decided not to in the end.
Speaker 2.
I think the organisers did a good job. They made a big effort to publicise the event this year. Last year was a disaster. Nobody got in touch with the local newspaper or radio station, so there were no journalists there at all. It was a waste of time, really.
Speaker 3.
I think charities do a great job to publicise the problem of homelessness. Politicians want to turn a blind eye to it, but they can't. The charities won't let them. That's why I decided to support this year's big sleep out. I couldn't be there for the event itself, but I gave them a hand in the office.
Lesson 4C. Exercises 5 and 6. Speaker 1.
I've been working for a charity called Safe Houses for 3 years now. And in that time, the number of young people without a home has increased sharply. Charities like ours do not have enough time or money to deal with all the people who require assistance. Only the government can really solve the problem. But unfortunately, homelessness is not a high priority for most people. One of our aims as a charity is to change that.
Speaker 2.
I was expecting to be one of the youngest people on the sleep out, but in fact there were lots of people my age or younger. I think young people care about homelessness, especially when they see people sleeping rough on the streets who need help. Whereas older people often just walk past, maybe because they're too busy. I suppose that's why so many young people want to be part of an event like the Big Sleep Out. I'm going to suggest that all of my friends take part next year.
Speaker 3.
We're making 2 proposals for tackling the problem of homelessness in our city. Firstly, for people who are currently sleeping rough, we will provide free places at local youth hostels. And secondly, we're offering assistance for young homeless people who need to find work, because we know how difficult it can be to gain employment when you are homeless. With these proposals, we aim to fulfill the promise we made during the election, to make our city a better place for all of its inhabitants.
Speaker 4.
I've been sleeping on the street, on and off, for about a year now. Nobody plans to do that. It just happens to you. I was in a children's home until I was 17, but I had to leave because there were a lot of arguments and fights. I needed some space and some time on my own. That was very important. At the moment, I don't mind living on the streets too much. The worst thing is when people call me lazy and tell me to find a job. That hurts me. They don't understand.
Speaker 5.
We get quite a lot of homeless people in the city centre, and to be honest, I don't really like it. I think the number has gone up a lot recently. They make me feel a bit uncomfortable, especially if they talk to me when I'm on my own. I know they're probably harmless, but they don't look very friendly. In the evenings, a lot of them seem to hang around the high street. I usually avoid that area if I'm walking home on my own.
Lesson 4F. Alternative homes. A.
Living sculptures. Gregory Klern is a sculptor with a difference. Not only are his sculptures created from bits of rubbish, but each of his unique creations is a homeless person somewhere to live. Gregory works in California, where there are a lot of people living on the streets. Each of his sculptures is no bigger than the average sofa. But the tiny one-roomed shelters are as wonderful as mansions for a person who is sleeping rough. Gregory searches on rubbish dumps to find pieces to use. A washing machine door is as good as a normal window. A fridge door can make a fine front door and has useful shelves on the inside. And each home is on wheels so that it can be pushed around easily. Gregory used to make sculptures for rich people. Now he knows that his creations really make a difference to people's lives. And he has also inspired other people to start building. B. Build your own tiny home. If you wanted your own house, would you build it yourself? Some Americans are now building miniature homes for themselves in order to live more cheaply and in a more ecological way than usual. And with wheels on their home, they can go anywhere. Part of the fun is making it yourself, even if you don't know how. Most people who are interested in tiny houses don't have any building experience, says Ryan Mitchell, founder of the tinylife.com website, who organizes conferences for interested people, and one of the conference speakers is Dee Williams, who has been living in her cozy wooden home since 2004. She wishes that more help had been available then. I didn't know anyone else who was building a little house at the time, anywhere, she says. Now you can find thousands of instructional videos on YouTube if you want to make your own.
C.
The Designer Micro House. Italian architect Renzo Piano is famous for designing Europe's tallest skyscraper, the Shard, in London. Now he has gone to the other extreme. He's designed the smallest house possible. It's just 2.5 by 3 meters and can be carried on a lorry. The interior is divided into 2 halves. There's a living room in the front with a sofa and folding table. At the back of the house, there's a small kitchen with a cooker and fridge, a shower and a toilet. It's really energy efficient, with solar panels on the roof and a container to collect rainwater, so the house is incredibly cheap to run. The house is called Diogene, named after the Greek philosopher Diogenes, who rejected luxury by living in a large ceramic jar. The Diogene is currently on display in Germany, and at just £17,000, this designer house isn't as expensive as many family cars, so a lot of people are interested in it. Well-contained housing. If you heard that they were putting homeless people into shipping containers, you might be shocked. But that's exactly what is happening in Brighton, England. The Brighton Housing Trust has been inspired by a similar housing estate in the Netherlands. It is developing 36 studio flats in the town centre, using old shipping containers. The flats will have a window at each end, and a toilet and shower room in the middle. On one side there'll be a kitchen and small dining table, and on the other side a living room with a sofa bed. At 24 square meters, they are smaller than a shared room in a homeless hostel, but they are much more desirable and certainly spacious enough for one person. They are also stackable. The containers will sit on top of one another with stairs connecting them. And in future, if somebody wants to move them, they can simply pick them up and take them to another site.
Lesson 4G. Exercises 3 and 4.
Both photos show rooms. Photo A is of a room in a hostel, I think, whereas the second shows a small flat. There are bunk beds in the room in the hostel, but the other room has got a double bed. In photo A, I can also see some clothes and bags. I think photo B shows a one-bedroom flat because I can see a kitchen at the end of the room. While photo A shows a rather untidy room, the room in photo B is very tidy. The flat looks comfortable and the furniture is nice and modern. The room in the hostel looks quite cosy. However, the furniture looks a bit old and worn out. I think I'd prefer to live in the first room in the hostel. I like the idea of sharing with other students, despite the lack of privacy. I think I'd need the company of other people. Not only that, I think the flat would be very expensive, while the hostel would be much cheaper.
Lesson 4G. Exercises 6 and 8.
I'm going to spend 3 months in the UK studying English at a British university. I can stay with a host family or in university accommodation. Can you give me some advice about which would be better?
Yes, of course. Let me see. One advantage of staying in university accommodation is that it would be very convenient. You'd be on campus, so you wouldn't have to travel.
Yes, that's true. But I might have to share a room. And I'd have to buy meals. Do you think it might be more expensive than staying with a host family?
I'm not sure about that. I think student canteens are quite cheap.
What are the other advantages of university accommodation?
I think the social life would be better. You'd be with a big group of students from all over the world. I think you'd make lots of new friends. You'd have lots of fun.
That's a good point. What are the benefits of staying with a host family, do you think?
Well, you wouldn't have to cook because you'd eat with the family. That would save a lot of time. What else? Well, with a host family, you would speak lots of English, so your English would improve.
But the students in the university accommodation would all speak English together. English would be their common language.
That's true. But they aren't native speakers, are they? I think it's better to speak with native speakers.
OK, you could be right.
Thinking about it, there's another advantage. You would experience the British way of life and learn about British culture.
Yes, good point. All things considered, I suppose the host family would be better.
I agree.